Gamer7, and welcome back to some more of my D&D characters getting turned into Sims, the CAS series, where obviously I turn my D&D characters into Sims. So today we have Shamira Arra, which, I think I actually, the way that you say Drax's last name, which is the character from last time, you almost can't hear the R part of it, but her last name is actually taken from a small portion of his last name because she got rid of her old last name. She doesn't care about it anymore. She's like, nah, I don't want that. Because she sort of has a new life, but we'll get to that in a brief moment. But if you want to know, if you're curious as to what her last name before, it was Osminos, and you will be hearing that again, and I'll actually bring that up a little bit more when that time comes. She doesn't care about that last name anymore. That is not her anymore. She is now a new woman. So anyway, let's get on to Shamira and her lovely backstory here. As you probably have seen by now in my drawing, Shamira has two drawings of herself, and I technically, when I would change the drawing up a bit now, but I haven't got around back to, redrawing it. But since I have drawn this, I decided I wanted to put a little bit more detail on the side of, the version of the drawing where she looks a little bit more innocent, a little bit more sweet, little bit afraid, scared. Basically, with Shamira, I'm going with the fact that her parents were actually a tiefling and an Azamar, and before this one thing happened, she looked like a normal human. It was probably more of the Azamar coming out in her, so that more sweet, innocent look to her, I'm going with is more of how she'd look if she would actually turned out to be a full Azamar. And the one that you're mainly gonna see is the one that comes out later on and is what more likely she would have looked like, a tiefling. And I was able to get them looking different enough because I have this one thing that you can put it on as a skin detail. Or you can put it on as a makeup. I like with some things that is an option, that if you want to put it on as a skin detail, you can, but if you want to put on a makeup because maybe it's like some sort of costume that they're doing or something like that. Or now with the sliders, you can sort of adjust the color of it a bit or make it not quite as in your face. So this made it sort of nice because I actually do make sort of both sides of her. I made it to where her every outfit she has, there is 3 everyday looks and 2 of the 5 everyday looks, but 3 of them are the tiefling and 2 of them are the Azamar, I think is how I did it, or maybe only did 1 with the Azamar. Either way, I wanted that side to almost never show up, but when we put them into the D&D mansion that I am building, if you haven't seen that, there is a link down in the description below to that playlist, where I'm building this large mansion and I'm going into details and taking my good old time with it. That's down in the description below if you want to go check that out. That is the house that I'm going to be putting these characters in to see what happens once I put them all together. But yeah, so that technically there is a chance that you could see her other form walking around randomly one day. She chooses just to be that in Sims world, but in D&D world, originally I was choosing for that side to never be used, but I potentially, if I ever, one, again, with these characters, a lot of times I look at them through 2 different lights. One, if I was to ever play them, and 2, if they was to ever be an NPC, if I ever did attempt to ever DM myself. I don't know if I ever will, but I still look at the characters in both lights, because chances are I will never play all these characters, but, if I did make a D&D world, like I did DM, I easily could put them all into that world at least. And, who never knows? I might change my mind from time to time if it ever got a chance for me to play D&D. I might not get settled on which one it was, and I could just give 3 of them and be like, hey, which one of these fit into your world better? Sort of situation, and I'll pick that one. Originally, I was just gonna go with, she had transformed into this more tiefling side of her, but then I thought it might be interesting if allowed, every once in a while, maybe it's a once a month type of thing, or every so many days, after 7 days, I have to roll to see if she potentially has her Azamar side come out, or, something along the lines. So both sides are a thing, and the one side would be more cleric, versus her tiefling side would be a warlock rogue. Now, I'll get into the warlock part here in a moment. But yeah, I thought that would be a fun little idea if allowed. If not, I would just go with her tiefling side because that's the main part of her. But for Sims, I decided to create both ones, and I even have screenshots of both sides at the end so that you could see both of her looks out in the wild. Now, as for her subclasses are the undead and assassin for the tiefling side, and then life domain for the cleric side. I also am forgetting to sometimes mention certain things that I mean to mention in these videos, so I apologize, but she is like around 5'4", she's around my height, so we about the same height. But she's probably a lot more intimidating and a lot more badass than I look, so... But oh well! That's fine. Now, as far as her, like, self in Sims, again, I am hoping to have a mod working. I haven't tested it since this new stuff. I partially don't want to really re-download and test the mod out until I know for surely when I'm actually going to record the little mini-series of them in the household, because who knows how many updates are going to come out towards the end, because sometimes it seems like we're getting more updates recently, and then, like, as of the cottage living thing, they actually had a mini update right after cottage living went up, because there was some things in the big update that they were able to fix, like, real quickly or something. I don't remember, I didn't fully read it, not gonna lie. So it's situations like that, if they put a big update out and then something, they need a little update, then chances are the little update might not break mods, or might not break as many, but still, you never know. So I'm just gonna wait until it's, like, closer to time to test that out. But if I am able to give her all three, she would have a romantic, kleptomaniac, mean, erratic, and self-assured. Now, I'm not gonna lie, with a lot of my warlock people, I'm automatically giving them erratic, not because they are necessarily crazy. In some way, Shamira is, so for her, you could go either direction with it, but as I had mentioned in Eefies, I sort of just see as the part where they randomly will start talking to themselves, as them talking to their patron, so that's part of the reason why I'm giving, like, warlocks more likely, unless there's, like, some other traits that just scream about them that I need to see to give them more, but otherwise, a lot of them probably are going to have the erratic, just so, you know, it could be like they're talking to their patron, because I think that's sort of funny to think about. The thing is if the one mod doesn't work and I can't give them 5 traits to give them as much personality as possible putting them into this house, then I'm mainly going to give her romantic, kleptomaniac, and mean. So, partially, one of the traits is representing more of her good Aasimar self, and the other ones are representing more of her I don't really care anymore tiefling. Now, how did Shamira become a tiefling from being, like, the more Aasimar version of herself? Well, basically, to get to where she is now, we must talk about her parents. Her parents, who are the full Aasimar and the full tiefling. Now, the tiefling actually was in a relationship. He had a wife, he had a son, but, like, their relationship was never as close as some people's relationships are. It was more of probably a situation like maybe she got pregnant and they just decided to stay together, or it's some sort of family thing, or, like, a mutual agreement, because at the time, like, they cared about each other, but, you know, there was a lot of things that they were more important about, but so it's like, you know, we're under this understanding that both of us have a lot of other things going on in their lives, but we still like each other, and we're okay if we're not, you know, something like some sort of agreement of some kind, and they got married, and it worked, and at the time, but as they got older, maybe not so much. And in the case of him, he actually found someone else that he fell in love with, but his wife. I think the wife probably had more feelings for him than he did for her, which sounds bad. You shouldn't cheat. Don't cheat. The thing is if you no longer care for them, just probably leave them. And if someone leaves you because they no longer care for you and they're even having thoughts of cheating, then chances are that's not going to be a healthy relationship for you either. So neither one of them reacted well in this situation, but she got very upset when she found out that he was seeing someone else and that she actually even had a kid. She took the kid away and sort of just left them at this random orphanage where the other two potentially could not find her, and that little child was Shamira. And Shamira grew up in an orphanage. Now, this is where Shamira's story gets a little sad for a bit. As I mentioned in Drax's video, I have some characters that have some tragic parts of their lives but it's what made them who they are, and it's part of the reason why this group in particular sort of went together. Other than one of them totally put it on himself. But we'll get to him later. But as for the most of them, they have sort of a sad part of their story, and that's why they sort of bond together. But with Shamira, this orphanage was sort of a rough area. It was a rough place to be in, and she was definitely, as a child growing up and even into her teen years, she was definitely more reserved. She was a lot more quieter, shy, sort of the little odd girl in the back that was super sweet, but everyone knew that they could get away with picking on her because she wasn't going to do anything. So a lot of the kids did pick on her and was not so nice to her, and particularly like this one kid that at one point, you know, that was like her first crush, but he was like the worst to her. She had like one friend who she considered him a friend and probably was her only friend at the orphanage, but at the same time there was still some resentment there as she got older because he just let the things happen to her and never tried to help stood up for her when she actually at least tried to stood up for him at least like once or twice, obviously resulting in her just being bullied back. He never did that for her because, I mean, it was partially because he was scared. I mean, they were both kids, even into their teen years. Sometimes when you get that mentality growing up, it's hard to get out of it even after you get older and stronger, but he probably didn't realize that bothered her so much, but it did bother her so much. But the orphanage was actually located near this lake that used to be a lake of like spiritualness and happiness and just light and just all things good, and it was even known as like a lake of healing. Like you would go in there and you would almost feel healed and rejuvenated, and a lot of people would do that. But eventually at some point in time in the past there was like a horrible battle that happened very close to the lake, and the lake was like basically blood-soaked by this battle, and something about this lake that had the magical element, this tragedy and all this violence so close to it and like leaking into it, changed the lake, and it became known as the Black Lake because it became so dark at a distance it just looked black. It did not look good. It did not look like a great lake. And this orphanage was very close to it. The lake was over a cliff from the orphanage. There was a way to walk down there to get to it, but the closest thing was a cliff to it. Anyway. And it had become very well known as, you do not get near this lake, you don't go in it, because you will not be coming out alive. It was almost like it had a very strong acid effect. It would start burning straight through your clothes, burning your skin, so on and so forth. It was bad. You did not survive if you tried to go into this lake. Well, the kids at the orphanage, well, they're not really kids anymore, they're more like teenagers, young adults now, like, you know, they're starting to go out in their own ways, and obviously they're probably living in different parts of the village where the orphanage is at. So, but at the same time, like, they've grown up together and things like that. They still sort of pester some of the ones that they pestered when they were younger, and Shamira was one of them, and they got close to the edge of this cliff, and they were teasing her and all this stuff, and the one boy that was the worst at it actually pushed her, and she fell over the cliff and into the lake, which a lot of people is like, yeah, she's gone, she's dead, that's it. And they walked away, they left, except for the one friend. He did go down and sit at the edge of the lake. He didn't think she was alive, he just was more of a sort of a grieving moment for him. So have it, she actually was alive. She had been slightly altered, her tiefling side more came out, and when she emerged, her hair was red, she looked a little bit darker and different, but basically the deity of the lake, who had been corrupted by all this that had happened near it, had graced her with abilities, therefore why she is a warlock. But she's also a rogue. To me, some of the rogue comes from when she was younger, or like it comes from thoughts of when she was younger, like if I could have just been this, I could have protected myself. But anyway, I also just really wanted her to be like really good with daggers and knives and stuff like that. It's just part of more of like how I wanted her to feel, basically. But yeah, so that's Shamira's story. That is how she became what she is. She basically went out of the lake. Oddly enough, I would imagine that at least her clothes would have been burned through, which is weird. But at the same time, like, I just imagine that would make more sense, at least. And at that point, she had decided to change a new leaf she just walked on past this person who was the only one that was close enough to call a friend, and just walked off and went into the forest. And that is where Drax actually found her. He took, like, some sort of piece of cloth that he had with him and wrapped it around her and was like, "Are you okay?" And, like, why is this girl just in the forest with no clothes on? What has happened? Like, let me see if I need to help her. So that is how she ends up getting with Drax and joining him on the adventures, and why she sort of took a piece of his last name, because she no longer wanted her old last name, and, like, he sort of let her go along with him and, like, was there and, like, instantly greeted her with kindness versus sort of what she grew up with. And ultimately everyone in the party treats her very kindly and very nice, no matter what she looks like, whether she's in her tiefling or the other form. Like, they don't care. They're very nice to her, so she's very much about protecting them and helping them where she can, but also to just give strength to her patron, because otherwise she would be dead. And I also just imagine that if she ever ran into the boy that was the worst one to her, oh, she would have so much fun messing with him. Not that you should condone becoming a bully and bullying your bully. Every character has a flaw, and, you know, I would imagine she would do that at this point. Like, you've done this to me years, this is what you get, this is what you deserve, like, sort of situation. She's no longer scared. She will mess with you. Now, when she's in her, like, Asthma form, I still think she's a little bit more calm and collected and a little bit more shy toned. She's still not as bad as she was. But anyway, I hope you like Shamira and how she turned out. I hope you enjoyed hearing her backstory, even though it does have a little bit of sadness. But like I said, not every character is gonna have a good happy ending. I have, like, at this point, obviously I'm not going to make a creative sim for all these characters currently. I might do a series 2 later on down the road, but as of right now, I'm like in the 30s, 40s some of characters, and there is no way you're going to have that many people and not some of them have somewhat tragic backstories, and some of them are going to be worse than others. I don't think her, other than the bullying, because bullying's really bad. Bullying's bad. She doesn't like bullying. If she sees people bullied, she will stand up for the person who is not the bully. The victim. I had to think of the word. That is one of her good flaws, is that she will help a person getting bullied in a heartbeat now, because she knows what it feels like. But yeah, bullying is sadly a real thing, and that is part of Shamira's story, but she has come out on the other side stronger, so yay for her. But anyway, let me know who has been your favorite so far. Shamira is number 12 of characters to be put up on the channel. Let me know your thoughts down below. And I hope you're looking forward to the other 3 that are in this group, and then proceeding after that, the several more characters to come up in at least series 1 of my D&D characters. Because I could do a series 2. If y'all want me to eventually do a series 2, definitely let me know down in the comments below. I will put like 1 or 2 series in between them, so I won't like go straight into series 2. Just let me know down in the comments below if you would like to see future criticisms of my future D&D characters, not just the ones that I am currently making for this series now. And make sure you subscribe, all that lovely YouTube goodiness, so that you don't miss out on future stuff here on the channel, including the D&D Mansion and the rest of the D&D characters. And I'll hopefully see you in the next one. But until then, bye bye!